Hey, guys, you got big plans for the new year?
Of course. Huge.
Listen, Squarespace makes it easy to turn your idea into a website, whether that's your work, a blog, you just have some content you want to publish, you want to sell some products, it doesn't even matter. A few clicks, and it's on Squarespace. You can customize everything from the look and feel to settings and products. There's nothing to install, patch, or upgrade ever. They take care of all of that. So head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code FOOTBALLERS to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. Any of you gentlemen know where I can find some narcotics?
For those of you out there in the interwebs, and especially YouTube, because during the off-season, our shows on YouTube, they're up at like 3 a.m., and people are loving it. Today's show is coming up a little bit later because our fearless leader, Andy, has I hear he was
fallen
wrestling
and can't get up.
See, I was gonna go with, like, you had to do battle with.
Oh,
He-Man.
you were gonna give me credit?
Yeah.
How did you not go wrestling with a bear? It was like Jay Grizz wanted in on the show, was trying to take Andy down.
Yeah, I threw my neck out pretty good yesterday for no reason. I mean, other than the fact that I'm in my middle 30 range and inactive. Other than that, I mean, I would love to say I wrestled a bear, but it was I heard it while Netflixing. So very similar.
Tell me that's the truth.
Pretty close.
Oh, good.
But I was like,
It's the same as you. I woke up like this. Well, how'd you hurt it? Sleeping.
yeah, it just
I
happens.
slept wrong.
It stinks, man. It's no good. You can't. Does it hurt you to look at me? Not just because of my
Most
visual
of the time it
presence.
does. Today a little more than normal.
All right.
I did one of those.
You feel like Batman. Can't turn.
Yeah. Oh no. Yes.
Good thing you're in a swivel chair.
There was a decent part of 2 days ago where I manually lifted my head at all times. Like, I couldn't lift my own head
manually.
Well, I just meant like with my
Right,
hands.
I
Sorry,
knew what you
not
meant.
manually. Yeah, automatically. I did one of those video doctors. Have you seen these?
Mm-hmm.
So instead of going into like the emergency room or urgent care, I knew that all they do is probably prescribe like an anti-inflammatory and a muscle relaxer. So I get on there, and this very kind 65-year-old doctor that's on the video, Doctor on Demand thing, she just, she wouldn't accept the fact that this happened without me doing something very, physical. Was I hiking? Was I playing sports? No, I just rolled over. But I'm here.
For now.
I'm here for now, and we have a truth episode. Part 2 of the running back truth episode. We broke down the top 10 running backs, their consistency, their performances over the year, breaking down the truth so that you understand a player is more than the emotion you feel as he was owned during the season. I mean, you have players like Kareem Hunt that started the year on fire. You have players that rookies, Alvin Kamara, who started without a role, established a role, consistency levels. Jason mentioned it on the show on Tuesday. These are injury is not factored into this consistency that we give you. Basically, if you start a guy, what did you get?
Yep.
Right. Dalvin Cook rocks in these rankings because when he was playing, he was great. It only goes by games played. So David Johnson is pretty good, which obviously those are outliers. We're going in the order of their actual fantasy finish. So the people we've talked about last episode, that was basically the top. What did we get through? The top 10, 12?
10.
And from here on out, we're going to go down from 11 through 24 as to how people finished. This is actually where it gets much more interesting to me because those top 10 running backs were basically almost the top 10 most consistent, and that makes sense because of the position. But now you're going to start to see, if you don't get one of those stud running backs, looking forward to next year, what kind of backs are more consistent and less consistent, kind of break through some of the narratives that we can fall victim to, and like Andy said, take the emotion of how you feel about a player
and the finish, the final finish of a player as you're going to find out with number 11 and 12, because there is a wide gap between their finish and how consistent they actually were for your team.
All right, we'll get into that momentarily. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. The website's thefantasyfootballers.com. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, everywhere. You can find us. We're year-round. We never leave. Except for, like, yesterday when I left for a little while.
Well, technically you didn't leave.
True.
Because you never showed up.
There you go. Here's the quick question of the day. Is now the time to propose rule changes for your fantasy football league?
Now is the time to start the process.
This is where you're planting your seeds.
Exactly
the
right.
Mustard seed.
You're going to, look, if it's something you think everybody's going to agree to, propose it anytime. Even middle of the season, say, hey, next year you guys want to change to this? And people say yes. If it's something that's the opposite and nobody wants to change to fat because they're all dummies, then you start with one or two people. You don't go and propose it to everybody. You go, hey, Mike.
You turn into a lobbyist.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You turn into a lobbyist, and you go to whoever's closest in the league, you get them on your side. Then you go to your second close. You start, testing the water. Now's the time to start that process.
A lot of people need a little break. So if it's not something that directly impacted the end of your season, I think you can start to, like you said, plant the seed, but really make that more of an issue when you get closer to draft season to vote on that and to formalize it before the season begins. If it's something like Week 17 championship games, that memory of the torture that is fresh on your mind.
Yes.
So now is the time to say we can never let this happen again and begin to make changes for your league. Yeah, to heal, make changes, whatever it is.
Also, shout out to the Foot Clan out there because we have had more this year than ever I can remember people saying our league has chose to switch, has chosen.
You did it
I did it again.
I chose to sat him.
I chose to sat him. Our league is changing next year from Week 17 to Week 16. Good for you people out there.
Yes. Good you for.
Good you for.
News and notes from around the league.
Brooks is back. How you doing, Brooks?
Yeah.
Great.
How was Michigan?
It was cold.
Cold? Do you
Yeah.
like it here in Arizona?
Yeah, I belong here in the heat.
I've still never seen snow. I can't wait. I can't wait till the day that it happens.
Wait, is
Seen
this
it.
true?
That can't be true.
No, I've seen snow.
All right. Yeah.
Well,
I went back east once.
no, but legit. I mean, I had not experienced snow until probably the middle, like my middle teenage years. That's how long it was, and never had been in snow. And then when you do it, you're like, it's magic.
You should
Yeah,
see
Brooks, when he got out here this past January, he experienced sunshine. He said, what is this?
great ball of fire in the sky.
Michigan has a special gray sky that's there most of the
Sounds
entire
delightful.
winter.
Leonard Fournette, running back for the Jags, involved in a minor car accident when his car was rear-ended. He is okay. He drove home. It's not really much of a story.
Cannot confirm nor deny that Bill Belichick
Was in the other vehicle?
had anything to do with this.
Well, maybe it was to make it fair. I mean, Tom Brady apparently jammed his throwing hand at practice after being accidentally run into. X-rays showed no structural damage. It's still
This one scares
a concern.
me. Yeah, it should be a concern.
Throwing hand.
It's your throwing hand. He was not present for the media moments, the interviews. He was off with the medical staff. That's concerning. I mean, it's great news that nothing is broken and that the X-rays came. But when you have to get X-rays, like something happened.
Yeah, they do that. I think they do that pretty quick.
But sure. But my point is, there was a painful injury that said there's a chance of a bigger problem here, and they went and X-rayed it. Now you're playing against Jacksonville. If you're a DFS, Tom Brady's usually the golden ticket. He was last week. I don't know.
Yeah,
he scares me this week.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Adam Thielen's dealing with a lower back injury, didn't practice. Malcolm Mitchell's not coming back this year. Drew Brees says he does not plan to test the market, hopes to re-sign with the Saints. They're a good, young, up-and-coming team. He wants to see what they can do. Jarvis Landry, this is interesting. He will not accept a hometown discount for the Dolphins. He
Good
has
for you,
one
Jarvis.
opportunity to make his money, so to speak, and he's looking for a contract in the range of that big one that Davante Adams just signed with the Packers, which is 4 years, $58 million with $18 million guaranteed. Based on this information, does it push you more or less to the side of, Jarvis is going to leave Miami? And how does that look for Devontae Parker in dynasty leagues, or Kenny Stills?
It pushes me more to the side that he's going to leave, because I have been, prior to this, have been assuming he was going to stay. But if he's looking for the one huge contract, that's usually where, look, if you test 32 teams, versus one, you're going to find a team that's willing to pay up to steal you away. It's difficult in the NFL with some of the rules to be able to actually, go sign elsewhere, and with draft picks and things like that can be paid out. So I think he leaves, but if he gets paid like this, he's going to be the same Jarvis next year. This team or another team, I don't think his style of play requires Ryan Tannehill or Jay Cutler to be successful. So if I'm in a dynasty league and someone's afraid of the contract situation, I'd go buy him, or if you have him, I would keep him.
Yeah, and just to say it, I probably don't agree. I think he'll be a good player somewhere else, but I don't think you can pencil him in for 100-plus catches if he changes teams. So, you're going to have to make your own judgment call there.
Yeah, I guess
wide receiver free agency, wide receivers that move in free agency, I hit the pause button regardless. I love Jarvis Landry. I think he's an amazing player, but he is dependent to me on 110 catches to be that player. If he goes somewhere and catches 90 balls, he's not going to be a disappointment for that team. But he will be for fantasy, in my opinion. So
just thinking through the teams right now, my sleeper pick is going to be the Oakland Raiders.
Oh, with Crabtree possibly out the door?
Yeah.
Interesting.
They will need a possession guy.
That's fair.
And they're not afraid to spend money.
Hey, guys, if you finish the league 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 3rd in total offense per game, you don't come back. Todd Haley, offensive coordinator for the Steelers, will not be brought back. We have heard a lot about Haley and the Steelers. I've been saying, look, they kind of get in their own way right now. I mean, they have so much talent on that team, but with Latavius coming back and then demanding the ball and then saying he's going to leave, and then some of the off-the-field stuff with other players, it just seems like there's a little more controversy there than other franchises that are trying to win. And now Todd Haley, your established offensive coordinator, is leaving. What do you guys make of this?
Well, for the fact that he's leaving, not overly surprising. Todd Haley long has a reputation of being
he wears people down.
Yes, tough to work. I mean, it's tough to work with. This is a Jim Harbaugh situation. Look how successful the 49ers were with Jim Harbaugh, but
good coach, tough man.
Conflict of interest or of personalities between people in the upper management. Harbaugh had to leave. So this is the similar thing, I think,
fair.
with Todd Haley.
The nice thing for fantasy
he will get a job really quick, though.
Absolutely he will, as he should. The nice thing, though, for the Steelers is it appears so far that the quarterback coach is most likely to take over that offensive coordinator role. I love that because you have a team here who's been consistent. You just read the numbers. You know, there were 2nd, 3rd, 7th, and 3rd the last 4 years in offense. So I want consistency here. This is what I was hoping that the Atlanta Falcons would do last year when they lost Shanahan, was take their quarterback coach, promote him, keep that train chugging along.
All right. Reminder, playoff challenge. Make your changes to your lineup.
RIP, my team.
I like what you guys have done. You guys were like, okay, the teams you had chosen to get there.
7 Saints.
Yeah, exactly. And so now that you're like, okay, I'm out of it, the only way you can win is to go the exact least likely thing possible. And
yes.
What are your team?
Lowest ownership percentage players on the teams not expected to win the game.
I'm all on Jags.
Jags and Eagles. I've got them up and down.
Yeah.
That's the Super Bowl I'm expecting. Bortles v. Foles.
Oh,
you played
give
to
it
win
to me.
the game.
Give it to me.
All right, without I don't think we have any other news we need to get into, so let's talk running backs.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
Just a reminder, when we talk consistency at the running back position, we talk in terms of great games. That's when a player scores 22 or more points. That's a top 5 on average performance for that week. Good games, which are more than 10 points, that's a top 24 average. And bust games that are fewer than 7 points outside of the top 50 on average. That's how we define a good, great, or bust game, and then that factors into what we think their consistency ended up as. So this past Tuesday, we talked through Todd Gurley, Lev Bell, Alvin Kamara, Kareem Hunt, Melvin Gordon, Mark Ingram, LaShawn McCoy, Leonard Fournette, Carlos Hyde, and Ezekiel Elliott. And today we're going to go as far as we can into the rest of the running back position. I think we should try to, get deep in the running back position because there's a lot of interesting information here from a consistency standpoint. Right off the bat, you start with Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey was the 11th ranked running back in fantasy, but his consistency rank was 23rd in the league.
Woo!
He busted 25% of the time, so 7 or fewer points, 25% of the time. This is another rookie, right? And as with Kamara and Hunt and others of that nature, you do have this establishing a role, finding there was a trade of Kelvin Benjamin, some things in the offense. What's your read on Christian McCaffrey from this past year and moving into next year? 80 receptions, 651 yards, and 5 touchdowns. That's where he made his money.
It'll be interesting to see, Norv Turner coming in. Maybe they can get him a little bit more involved. It's a new coordinator coming to a team that now already has this asset in McCaffrey. So I think they can scheme for him a little bit better. But what happened this last year, and unlike some of these consistency numbers where, okay, he wasn't as consistent as the other top guys, sometimes those numbers are skewed because they got off to a slow start or they were dealing with injury in the middle or, at the end of the year they – the team was sitting guys or whatever. But this wasn't the case with McCaffrey. McCaffrey had, a bad week 2, a bad week 4, a bad week 14, a bad week 16. It was kind of spread out where it made it a little bit hard to trust him. And here's what I find fascinating. We're going to talk next about Jordan Howard. Jordan Howard makes sense to me because he doesn't catch the ball. He can be game scripted out where his games aren't that great. But McCaffrey, being a pass-catching running back, it was really surprising to me to see that he was not as consistent with giving you weeks where he's not hurting your roster as some of the other top backs.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, he was somebody that it seemed like every time he gave you a good performance and you wanted to count on him, he would let you down a little bit. He'd be game scripted out for some reason. Going into next year, Jonathan Stewart just kind of hangs around. Obviously, McCaffrey can't be the feature between the tackle
he won't be a 3-down guy, and even if Jonathan Stewart is forced into retirement or cut from the team, I think that the Panthers will draft a Jonathan Stewart type. They'll get a bruiser. Maybe they bring back Cameron Artis-Payne, who had some success. Go ahead.
So I just want to point this out because we have this awesome article series, the 25 stats article on our website. And we just released the 25 stat. These are just like mind-cool stat nuggets. And we just released, Michael Winrich put out the one on running backs. And he found this one on McCaffrey. He says, remember the preseason narrative that the Carolina Panthers quarterback Cam Newton doesn't know how to throw to a running back? It may actually –
Oh, I remember you guys talking about that.
Yeah, well, he says it may actually be semi-accurate because McCaffrey led all running backs with 113 targets, although he was only able to catch 71% of them, which is the 4th lowest catch rate among the top 30 most targeted running backs. And obviously, McCaffrey has unbelievable hands.
Great hands, yeah.
So it's like if you had a quarterback that could put a little touch on a short screen pass.
They needed to do it, but he isn't great at it. Cam being, so interesting. Jordan Howard comes in at number 12 with a consistency rank of 25. Jason just mentioned it. Doesn't catch the ball, only 23 receptions. Ran the ball 276 times. He was their offense.
Bananas.
1,122 yards and 9 touchdowns.
How do you have a line like that and end up as the 25th most consistent?
Yeah, he still was a top 12 guy, so that's how. I mean, he had big-time games. 9 touchdowns. That's impressive on a team that struggled the way they did on offense. 1,100 yards, again, not bad. He was good 50% of the time, but he busted 38% of the time, and he struggled when they got behind and they didn't give him the ball. And you had Tariq Cohen's involvement. Now you have a new offensive coordinator. Now you have a new offense. Now you have a new head coach. What can we really expect from Jordan Howard? Do you feel more confident? Let's say you had a dynasty half-point PPR league, and you had to decide whether to keep Jordan Howard or Christian McCaffrey on that team heading into next year. Where do you go?
I would go McCaffrey.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There's just too much change. I mean, Howard could end up being an absolute beast with a new coordinator, the offense. I like what Chicago's doing. Or they could say, you know what? We don't need to be this, give Howard the ball 25 times. Let's get Tariq Cohen more involved. There's just too many questions for me there.
Yeah, if I have to pick between Howard and McCaffrey, I lean McCaffrey, draft pedigree. But that's so tough, though, because I love Jordan Howard. I really believe in the talent. But
I'd be going with the team that I think is going to have success sooner, and that would be McCaffrey.
Yeah, and I'm still the jury is still out on Mitchell Trubisky of can he turn into one of these good quarterbacks in the league. I'm still not convinced he can.
Yeah, I am skeptical as well. All right, before we get to Devonta Freeman, definitely want to thank today's sponsor, Squarespace, especially not just because they're sponsoring, but because it's a great product. I know so many people that they have their big idea, they have their dream, and they don't know who to hire, who to get to build a website. It's like you can do this yourself. You can really do it. There are world-class designers making these beautiful templates. You can showcase your work. You can publish a blog. You can even sell products of all kinds with just a few clicks, customize everything, and there's nothing to install or patch or upgrade ever. They have great customer support. Squarespace is just a really great product for people who want to put something on the internet. If you have that dream, do it, and do it yourself. You will not be disappointed at all, and right now, you're getting a free trial, so head to squarespace.com for the free trial. When you're ready to launch your site, use the offer code FOOTBALLERS, and you'll save 10% off your first purchase with a website or a domain. That's squarespace.com, offer code FOOTBALLERS.
Want to thank Quip for sponsoring the show. Quip toothbrush. I have one. I use it daily because generally that's what you do with a toothbrush. But I love it.
I got them for my kids. They love them.
And Quip, they've combined dentistry and design to make a new electric toothbrush. It packs just the right amount of vibrations into a slimmer design, a fraction of the cost. It has these guiding pulses where about every 30 seconds it turns off and turns right back on. It's an automatic timer. It lets you know that you're brushing your teeth for the right amount of time. It's got this incredible mount, which sounds real simple, but you mount it right to your mirror.
It's magic.
You know where your toothbrush is at all times. It's not lost in your bag. It's not getting nasty stuff all over it. They got a subscription plan. They refresh your brush on a dentist-recommended schedule every 3 months for just $5, including shipping. It's chosen by, or it's preferred by over 10,000 dentists. Named one of Time Magazine's best inventions of the year. Find out for yourself why. Because Quip starts at just $25. If you go to getquip.com/footballers right now, you'll get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/footballers, spelled GETQUIP.com/footballers.
All right, this next running back has the second largest gap against top-performing defenses. So he is negative 7.6 fantasy points per game when he faces a top-half defense. And that's Devonta Freeman. He played 14 games this year, under 200 carries with 196 and 865, and 7 touchdowns. Caught the ball 36 times for 317 and 1. Overall, just kind of a down year in proportion to what happened to Atlanta. Now, Atlanta had a down year on offense in comparison to their otherworldly year last year. You would say that they regressed past the mean. So this wasn't just we're going back to what we are capable of or have done historically. Matt Ryan, we'll talk about him on a QB Truth show. He regressed beyond the mean, had a struggling year. Now, Freeman, you expected more from him, did you not?
Oh, certainly you did. I mean, you drafted him usually as the 4th or 5th running back off the board. But this is one of those things where I think the disappointment level people feel in Freeman is more emotions as to when it happened than how he actually was. He finished, as the 13th running back, 14th in consistency. He was still very good, and it came out after the playoffs that he has been dealing with, what was it, an MCL and PCL sprain.
Yes.
He didn't look the same. Like, watching him run, every time I watch Falcons, I see Tevin Coleman, who's a very good runner, and I see Devonta Freeman, who's on another level. And, if you look at the last couple games, especially the last playoff game, it was the exact opposite. It was like Freeman just didn't have something there. He's still a young guy. And, I really like Freeman. I do worry about the home road splits historically and the, taking advantage of the bottom half defenses.
Well, he just got paid.
Yes.
He is young, and I think you look at this as just a down year.
Well,
moving forward.
To be fair for Devonta Freeman, he missed 2 games.
Right.
And I don't mind prorating out over 14 games with a guy who has his consistent level. His rushing numbers in 16 games would be very comparable to what he put up the past 2 years, attempts and yards, maybe down a little bit on the touchdowns, and the receiving would be close to last year. That's where things were huge for him in the previous 2 years, 73 receptions, 54 receptions. So that has come down under Sarkisian, and also what has come down under Sarkisian is the level of intuitive and smart play calling
around
the goal line, where you have one of the best goal line backs in the league over the past few years, and you go, well, we're going to run this little tricky play and then flip it to Teron Ward. They'll never see it coming. Because
Teron Ward didn't see it coming.
36 receptions is troubling because you counted on that from him. And like you said, that's something where you can look at Sarkisian and say, well, that might be something that changes. Maybe they're not using him the same way that you'd hope they would. It's interesting because Freeman, McCaffrey, and then this next guy, Dion Lewis, at 14. I mean, Lewis has very similar numbers to Devonta Freeman this year, but the draft capital, what you invested in the player, is not in the same stratosphere. I mean, Dion Lewis was he had 180 carries for 896 yards and 6 touchdowns, 32 receptions for 214 and 3. He wasn't as consistent as Devonta Freeman, but he also wasn't as established in that offense.
Yeah, it took some time.
I mean, you had James White, who really carried the load for them over the first quarter of the year and then kind of got washed out. You also had Mike Gillislee, who started a few games, and then he was benched with Rex Burkhead's return. And Lewis had to kind of get back into game shape from previous year's injuries, but he played 16 games. He only busted 25% of the time, and
most of that was
he
early.
was pretty darn good.
Yeah, if you look at, I mean, he's one of these guys where Dion Lewis was actually really consistent once his role was established. He came in, everyone remembers week 1. Who's it going to be? Oh, you know who it's going to be. It's going to be Mike Gillislee. He's the guy to have for the Patriots backfield.
I thought it was Burkhead.
Didn't Burkhead get the first snap?
Yes, the first snap, and then it was all the debate. But
the tilt.
The point is, it looked like it wasn't Dion Lewis. It looked like they had signed 2 new guys, and they weren't sure about Dion Lewis's health. But as the season went on, they realized their best back is Dion Lewis. The other guys got injured, and he has done what he did.
He's just more versatile than all of them.
First half of the year, because they had a bye week right at week 9. First 8 weeks, Dion Lewis averaged 6.2 fantasy points. He basically wasn't used as a fantasy-capable running back. He wasn't given the opportunity. After that bye week, 16.3 on average, which is fantastic. So he was consistent there. The issue with him now is always the Patriots.
Yes.
Are they going who's it gonna be week 1 next year? And also, he's not under contract. He's an unrestricted free agent, so you don't even know where he's going to be right now.
Yeah, you can see the change in the box score for Dion Lewis. The first 5 weeks, never over double-digit carries. The remainder of the season, only once under double-digit carries, and put him on pace for 234 attempts once they finally started using him in week 6. I'm with Jason that it'll be interesting to see what he does. I have this feeling that Dion Lewis will be back, and Rex Burkhead is the wild card, I think, for the Patriots running game, because Rex Burkhead was a 1-year contract will they try and bring him back and move forward with Lewis, Burkhead, and White?
Interesting. Duke Johnson, 15th in rank, 15th in consistency, kind of lost in the Brown cloud,
Yes.
so to speak. 16 games, really a wide receiver. Only 82 carries on the year, but 74 receptions for 693 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was never great.
That's
He never had a great week.
That's exactly why
Top 5 week.
Duke Johnson never got the credit that you think
headline.
the 15th ranked running back should get, but he just was. You would plug him in, you'd feel feel okay about this, but just never a great game is unfortunate that we didn't get an explosion. Crowell was relinquished to fantasy waiver wire fodder.
31st is where Crowell finished, just for the record. I was going to bring him up because he got a lot of publicity in the preseason from myself as well because of the improvements to the offensive line.
And his coach.
And the coach. But what happened was what always happens. They're losing games. They were winless on the year. And when you're down, you don't get to commit to the run. You pass the ball in 74 receptions to a very capable pass-catching back. You know, Duke Johnson's a tough case moving forward.
Yeah, he really is because you have so much change on that team. You expect there to be a new quarterback. The one thing that won't change, though, and it does give me hope to draft Duke Johnson late again. Duke Johnson, despite finishing 11th in PPR leagues, he's still going to fall in drafts because he never had those big monster games. The one thing that we know will stay the same is that the Browns will be bad. And so they will be down and they will be losing.
I have a new idea, by the way.
They will need a pass catching back.
I wanted to bring this up, and we're talking about the Browns. I think they should draft, get this, 2 quarterbacks.
I've heard this theory before,
have
too.
You?
Yes.
Oh, I thought about it this morning because you always hear about, Josh Allen and then Saquon Barkley at 1 and 4. I think you draft 2 of them. Give yourself a shot.
Dude.
Let 2 of them compete against each other. A quarterback is so important. Don't mess it up.
I know what I would do. I would go hard in the paint after Alex Smith, and I would use those first 2 picks on defense and actually have a team. Because I promise you this: if they had the first 5 picks and they drafted the top 5 quarterbacks, they'd all fail.
The thing about Saquon Barkley, though, is that you've seen Fournette, Ezekiel Elliott, instant contenders when you bring in a guy like that. That's who they probably should draft. I just thought it would be funny to just stack them up. Just let them compete with each other.
Yeah. You could then
trade one away later on if you need
absolutely. And back to Duke.
It's outlandish. I realize that, but
no,
I like it.
I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think there's some smarts behind it. For Duke Johnson, the problem though with Duke Johnson is, when you're finally thinking about it, okay, you got him on your bench, I can plug him in. That's when you get wrapped up in, well, there's this waiver wire guy who's producing solid numbers, and you want to play them over Duke Johnson. So do you have some comfort, Jason, you were saying, with Duke Johnson? It just
I do.
I don't know if
look, Duke Johnson is theoretic. He's one of these guys where if you need to drop him, you can, but I usually don't ever drop a startable running back.
Right.
I'll stash him on my team. I'll use him as a flex week, a bye week guy. If I don't like my matchups, I'll plug him in for around those 10 points.
You're never excited. You were never excited to play him.
No,
but you could. You could play him.
He didn't really fail you. He just didn't win you weeks.
Lamar Miller only won you 1 week. He was a bust 19% of the time, good 50% of the time, consistency rank of 21st after finishing the year at 16 overall, 238 carries, 3 touchdowns on the ground, had 3 touchdowns through the air on only 36 catches. And his case is interesting too. You had a season with Deshaun Watson. Obviously, a running back's going to perform better when their team is in the red zone, and that's when his great game came. But what's left in the tank? This team showed a willingness to play Alfred Blue over Lamar Miller at times. You had Devonta Freeman, who I think would have had more and more opportunities towards the end of the year had he not been injured. And Lamar Miller is just kind of there. Lamar Miller is there. That would be the best way to put it. Probably will be what round do you think he goes?
I want to see if he's even on the Houston Texans.
Right?
Yeah.
What is his? Will you look up his contract
pulling it up right
situation?
now.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did move on. But if he is back and he's their number 1 running back, he'll probably go in the 3rd round, and he belongs there. The reality is, if he is back, he's still not too old. And when he had Watson, he was actually really good. You look at his splits the first half of the year, which was with Watson, say before week 9. He was 13.8 on average. He was okay. After that, from that point on, he averaged 8.9 points a game, while it was pretty much just the DeAndre Hopkins show. We're down. We can't run the ball. So this is a situation where it's a matter of, if he is back as the starter, I think he will be okay. He'll be what you saw the first half of the year, which is not something special. He really does not look great. Like, just studying film, watching, he never does anything that impresses me. And I was the Lamar Miller truther.
He's at the
forever.
bottom of the league for yards after contact again.
Exactly. I mean, but he did look in those games with Watson. he had juice. He had, like, I care again. It was kind of like what you saw with Todd Gurley in 2016,
right,
where it just looked like he just didn't care. He's just, I don't want to try harder because these guys are always behind the line and our team sucks.
The factors for me are Deontay Foreman. It was a torn Achilles in Week 11, and he could be ready.
Probably won't be
to start the year, but that's a tough injury to come back for him, especially that late
Certainly
in the season.
Can't bank on him to be your starter
Absolutely.
next year.
The contract situation for Lamar Miller, if they cut him, it would be $2 million in dead cap, but they would save $4.75 million in space.
They'll probably keep him.
All right, I want to move through some of these names a little quicker. C.J. Anderson, 17th. By the end of the year, finished strong. Consistency rank was only 31st, though. He busted 44% of the time, so almost half the time you put C.J. Anderson in your lineup, you walked away with a frowny face.
Oh, you felt it, too, all year. To play him on the right weeks was near impossible, except at the very end of the year when it became apparent they were giving him the ball. But you look at his game line, it's like, oh, he scores 28 points, then 5, then 13, then 1. I mean, he destroyed you if you tried to play him. And in my Dynasty League, I tried to play him.
Yeah, unfortunately, even if you're like my 2 colleagues who believe in the talent of C.J. Anderson, when push came to shove, you could not lean on him in any way, shape, or form this year. It'll be interesting to see what happens when they get a quarterback in Denver and what they do in the draft. You have Devontae Booker there. You had Jamal Charles there. But I wouldn't be surprised if they brought a free agent in to compete.
They may.
But Anderson that's what he was, 31st most consistent, 17th best.
I'll say 3 out of the first 4 weeks, you started Anderson. You were very, very happy. The problem was the middle of the season drought was very long. We're not talking Kareem Hunt you could still play him. It was you were getting devastated. You never knew when to play him until about the final month of the season. I don't know what the Denver Broncos are going to do with C.J. Anderson. He could be a cap casualty, but I still, like Andy said, I still strongly believe in the talent of C.J. Anderson. And he made it. He made it all 16. He did it.
Sure. Took some time off in the middle.
Well, yeah, a little bit.
Alex Collins was number 18, a waiver wire wonder. Alex Collins, 18th in fantasy production, 26th on the consistency charts. He busted 33% of the time, was good 40% of the time, and was great 13% of the time. So that's a pair of games in which he won you a week because he had such a great performance. Almost 1,000 yards on 212 carries, 6 touchdowns, and then caught 23 balls. Did not play as well against good defenses. He was down 5.3 fantasy points against good defenses.
Some of that,
and did not get the vote of confidence from John Harbaugh thus far as being kind of the guy for next year. They're waiting on Kenneth Dixon's return. I've tried to pick up Kenneth Dixon in a few leagues. I still think that they're going to give him every opportunity to be
really. You
back.
still believe in him?
I do. I believe in Kenneth Dixon. I think his talent is significantly above what Alex Collins is, and so I think they're going to give him the opportunity, one more opportunity, to be that guy. Now, he's had injury concerns, and then he's had disciplinary concerns. So those things are red flags, but I think Dixon will have an opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, I Collins passed the eye test to me this year. He really did look like a successful player, and I'm in agreement with you, Andy. I'm not convinced he'll be the back next year. It's a wait and see. But if he is, I'm fine putting more confidence in him. His consistency rating is one of those players where it's a little bit skewed because he wasn't on this team in training camp. He was cut from Seattle, and it wasn't until week 4 that it wasn't until game 5, so week 5, that he was actually involved as as a running back, getting at least 10 carries. From that point forward, he would have projected for about 250 carries, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns. And my favorite part about Alex Collins, he's 23 years old. I mean, they could have a young, good running back for this team already in place. So we'll have to wait and see what happens in the offseason. But, he averaged over 14 points a game, the second half of the year, which is really good for a running back.
And it's a wait and see for Alex Collins, because if he is the guy for the Baltimore Ravens, if he ends up getting that starter job and keeps it away from Kenneth Dixon, then he will be valuable, and he'll be drafted
top 15 type of back.
Yeah,
potentially.
I mean, you're talking a 3rd, 4th round running back.
Check this stat out. Another one from our 25 Stats article about the youth movement right now for running backs. The average age of the top 12 running backs, the whole RB1 group. Any guesses?
Nope.
Average age for the whole RB1 group is 24 years old.
That is correct. 24.
Wow.
Yeah, and that included LaShawn McCoy, who was 29, and Carlos Hyde, 27, Mark Ingram, 28. Without those 3 guys, it's under 23. It's 22-point stuff.
It's a young man's game.
It is.
Well, take the 24, double it, and you get number 19 on the list. Frank Gore, 48 years old, consistency rank of 22. He was not your RB12. I know that disappointed the world. He also just missed 1,000 yards again, and never, much like Duke Johnson, never had a great game. Never a top 5 type of performance on average. Busted a quarter of the time, was good 50% of the time, and I've seen a lot of articles already this offseason talking up, Marlon Mack as a big breakout type of guy for next year. Gore is very limited at this point in his career. Bad team, over the hill, only caught 29 passes, still finished in the top 24. So I'm not saying he's not worth drafting, but I think you're talking about somebody whose touches are going to be limited here on out. And look, we all joke about it, but Fred Jackson hit a wall eventually and was cut. Frank Gore's going to hit that wall as well.
But Frank Gore could have 0 carries. Frank Gore is not under contract with the Indianapolis Colts, and he has kind of come out and said himself he's played both sides of the fences, but he doesn't want to come back unless Andrew Luck is healthy. So, he's
34, by the way, not 48.
To settle some people down, we were disappointed he was not running back 12. However, he did have the 12th most rushing yards in the NFL. So
he found a way.
He's holding it down. Holding it down.
Life finds a way. Speaking of life finds a way, Marshawn Lynch, next up on the list, another old man, still alive.
He became a necessary part of this offense over the back half of the year because of the struggles of Derek Carr, because of the struggles of Amari Cooper, because of the struggles of the offensive line and the regression in the offense.
The injuries and suspensions to Crabtree.
Look, the offensive coordinator there struggled. And now you have a whole new system, team, John Gruden coming in, and I'm interested in seeing what happens with Marshawn Lynch. He signed a contract.
I was going to say that
he had a base salary of $9 million over 2 years, a chance to earn $16.5 million if he reaches the incentives. That was the deal he signed with Oakland. So he's still under contract with Oakland if he wants to play. I imagine he does.
He will cost them $6 million for this upcoming season. So I'm not sure that Marshawn's going to be back. Are you going to pay a 31-year-old? I know he's Marshawn, took some time off, whatever, but 31-year-old running back. We just talked about the average age of really highly productive running backs is 24. You're going to pay a 31-year-old $6 million when you can cut him for 0 dead cap.
No, it's a fair question. I like Jalen Richard still as a sleeper for next year. Lynch never had a top 5 type of performance. He was good 53% of the time, busted 27% of the time. Only caught 20 balls. We know what Lynch is. He's a, first and second down guy. I would still think he's going to be back. That's my opinion.
I mean, we all know how it worked out when I made a proclamation about Marshawn Lynch returning to the NFL. So I will recuse myself from this discussion.
Hey, we need a judge then. If you're recusing yourself,
yes, Judge Giamatti.
The judge should make a ruling on what
$6 million
he
for
thinks.
Lynch. Will
Is
he be
Lynch back next year?
He's gone.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
Jason, do you agree with the judge?
I think there is a good chance he's gone. He signed with a different coach, I remember when he signed.
That's also a good point.
And
Jack Del Rio's gone.
Jack Del Rio was jacked. I mean, I remember that video.
Tweeting out videos of him lumbering all around.
It was unbelievable. And so, now it's a whole change. I won't be surprised either way. If he's back, he's going to be should be drafted very late. He won't be used enough. We saw the stretches of Marshawn Lynch where he was not the volume back, and when he wasn't worth starting.
Tevin Coleman.
Coleman. Almost
21st running back off the board.
Some dissonance.
I'm sorry, not off the board.
Dissonance in your musical abilities, fellas.
The 21st in terms of rank. Consistency of 18. He's a tough player to own, to draft, to start, to play, because he's not the number 1 on his own franchise. So 156 carries, 27 receptions. I'd be disappointed in that reception number after a pretty good year last year.
Especially knowing what he can do with receptions.
He was
That's
good.
Both backs. That's just the change of scheme.
Yeah. He was good 60% of the time, busted 27%, and was a little bit behind the 8 ball against top defenses, minus 3.4. That factors in his performance against top Ds, but also, the team's not going to be utilizing that position as much. He's in an interesting boat because you got Jerick McKinnon up next, who's also not the guy.
And Jerick McKinnon's a free agent. Tevin Coleman will be back with the Falcons for sure. I like Coleman coming into next year. You
like him more or less than Duke Johnson?
Much more.
I like him more than Duke Johnson. We know he has the built-in RB1 in him if something happens to Devonta Freeman. We saw it. When Freeman was out, Coleman was a must-start, and he came through. But 60% good games. The problem with Tevin Coleman this last season was he was coming off a great season, so he was being overdrafted as the running back 2 in his committee. So if he's going to fall to that 6th round, back of the 5th, 6th round, then I will gladly be taking Tevin Coleman on my teams.
He is a think-ahead candidate for dynasty owners. He is 24 years old. He's under contract next year. And then
one more year?
Yeah. 2018, and then he's an unrestricted free agent in 2019. That's going to be his payday. That's going to be his Michael Turner leaves San Diego time. And he is an explosive player. He's a capable player. He was a 3rd-round draft pick in 2015, and they're not going to pay 2 guys big-time money in Atlanta. So Tevin Coleman's got 1 more year in the Sarkisian experiment, and then he's going to be a free agent. So this would be the time where, look, Mike's saying you can play him anyways, but maybe you play him and then you look to cash in big time in a dynasty league, keeper league format.
It's going to be tough
in 2 years.
It's going to be tough to try and pry him away if that's your goal in dynasty, because the other player hopefully is smart enough to know that he has 1 more year left.
But maybe they're not, Mike.
Yeah. Trust me. Maybe. I mean, we've talked about things, our rule of drop it like it's hot, where everyone thinks, no.
People do dumb things.
That could never happen in my league, and
then they check.
Yeah,
and it happened.
And then people are
tweet us and go, "Thank you."
People are getting Zach Ertz and Ezekiel Elliott off the waiver wire.
That's exactly right. You just got to be thinking ahead.
Yes,
you got to. It only takes one.
Yeah, that's the Andy Holloway special. See, what Andy does is he thinks, maybe Tevin Coleman would be good, and then you know what he does? He doesn't just sit there. He just goes and makes an offer. And 9 out of 10 times, the other person goes, well, no, Tevin Coleman's going to be great. But then that one time, he just shotgun approaches. And it's like every player that should be valued, he goes and makes a little cheap trade for, and then one guy is like, Yeah, I don't like him.
That used to work a lot better before I had a fantasy football
and
podcast.
you shared all your opinions, yeah.
Because not only do they know what I say on the show, but there's this back of the mind, well, what do you know that I don't know that comes along with being the host of the Fantasy Footballers podcast? So Jerick McKinnon, DeMarco Murray, Latavius Murray round out the top 24 at running back. You have McKinnon and Latavius there at 22-24. These guys were compliments all year long ever since Dalvin Cook went down. And so from a consistency standpoint, they finished really low. Now, part of that is because they didn't have established roles in the beginning of the year, but were still active. And part of that is because they just weren't that consistent. I mean, Jerick McKinnon, there were weeks you were like, this is the guy. You get the pass catching. You got some goal line to start out after Dalvin Cook left. But that was also before Latavius Murray's health came back to form, and they trusted him in those situations. Murray had 8 touchdowns on the ground. McKinnon only had 3. McKinnon had 51 receptions, but he's a free agent now. And what can we really expect him to do? I mean, get a role just like this somewhere else?
He should go somewhere else. I wouldn't.
Isn't he as talented as a Duke Johnson out of the backfield?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think he is.
Sure.
And Latavius Murray finishing the year with 216 carries when he had 14 total carries weeks 1 through 4 is pretty impressive. The unfortunate thing for him is Dalvin Cook is the superior running back, so assuming that Dalvin is back to full health,
he should come right back into his monstrous role. Dalvin Cook will be the guy. These are the first 4 weeks for McKinnon and Murray. McKinnon, first 4 weeks, 5.5, 4.3, 1.6, negative 1.8. And Latavius Murray started the year with negative 0.2, 0.9, 0.7, and 4.6. They were irrelevant when Dalvin Cook was there, and I imagine they will be again next year.
Latavius Murray, where he finally got in the game. And didn't he fumble on his first carry?
Something like that, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Good times.
Dalvin Cook was the 8th most consistent running back. Now, he only played 4 games, but he was great, guys. He was incredible, 74 for 354 and 2. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about the role that Murray's going to have next year. Speaking of Murray, DeMarco at 23, overall a disappointing year. You have to just take your lumps here. I thought it would turn around because they were, Malarkey was undyingly loyal to DeMarco Murray. And so I kept waiting for that to translate into Murray's production like it did last year. Murray was not good. He was great last year.
Correct.
You and I were in
one
agreement.
of the most consistent running backs in football last year.
Yeah, and Mike stood opposed and
stands correct. -7 against top defenses. Busted 40% of the time. Played better at home. Couldn't travel. Only one great game on the season, and that was the result of pretty much that big old long broken play touchdown. And he's come out and said he thinks he's the same guy. He's still a great player. 29 years old, but a lot of wear and tear on that body.
Yeah.
Where does he end up?
Hey. Since we're talking about, this is Latavius Murray.
we're talking about DeMarco
we were just
Murray.
talking about, I want to give a shout out. Happy birthday, Latavius.
Oh.
That's it.
Okay.
All right. How did you figure that out? Did you get a text?
Yeah.
You have NFL birthday alerts on your
calendar update. I've got all the players in there.
You write them a little letter?
By hand.
The worst part for the demise of DeMarco Murray this season is both sides of the Titans running back argument lost. You couldn't play DeMarco, and you couldn't play Derrick Henry. Now, I am firmly on the side that DeMarco Murray will be done with the Titans. His head cheerleader in Malarkey is gone. I think they're going to move on. But with the new coach, that doesn't necessarily mean that Derrick Henry is the automatic 3-down role. We're going to put everything on him. I imagine that they will draft another running back.
It's going to be tough because in 2018, DeMarco Murray, he's $6.25 million, and the dead cap, 6.5.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
What?
According to Spot Track.
Really?
Yeah, so that says that he will be back because they're paying him a lot of money to not be there if he's not there. Unless Spot Track has incorrect information.
No.
They're usually the best source.
No, what are you talking about? In 2018, they can cut him with 0 dead cap. You are reading things incorrectly.
Oh, you are correct. Thank you. The cap hit would be $6.5 million without cutting him.
If they go
the
back
dead
in time
cap is,
and cut him in 2017,
yeah, then it's 6.5.
yeah. So 0. Okay, now that
He's gone.
No,
He gone.
okay.
Jason, we knew your grammar was an issue, but
It's also my reading, writing, arithmetic.
I'm
The
very
3 R's.
I am very confident in myself, said Murray, and I'm excited. I'm excited about the future and my future. I know what kind of player that I am.
If we can just somehow get Doug Martin and DeMarco Murray sharing a backfield,
Long term, you have to put all your chips on DeMarco Murray or C.J. Anderson from here on out.
CJ,
Anderson.
without a shadow of a doubt. I don't even know that DeMarco Murray plays football next year.
Oh,
if he's cut
come
here.
on.
If he's cut here, he's a 30-year-old back that's going to want money.
He's a 29-year-old back.
He's currently 29 years old and 340 days. So he'll be
Is
30.
he?
Yes, he'll be 30 on February 12th.
You know what?
And
you know
you
what
can't
Jason
trust anything I
dominates?
say.
Jason dominates apparently his birthdays.
Yes,
he's all
that's
over
what,
that.
That's what I know.
DeMarco Murray is not on the cusp of retirement. He's going to find a team in a heartbeat, and he dealt with a lot of injuries this year.
That's what we would have thought for Adrian Peterson last year.
He did find a team.
Not a heartbeat. He struggled forever and then finally went to a team that traded him after.
I thought you meant, yeah, but he still played in the NFL.
Yes, he got a job. So Murray, he'll probably get a job, but people are not going to be banging down the door to pay DeMarco Murray millions of dollars when they can draft someone in the 5th round.
For sure, especially after that year. He'll have to prove it. That's why maybe he's back with Tennessee. I mean, he probably compliments Derrick Henry there. Chris Thompson, don't forget about him.
Oh, my goodness.
13th
So
most
good.
consistent. Hard to really project him moving forward because he hadn't done it before at this level. 64 for 294 and 2, 39 receptions, 4 touchdowns. Big play guy. Was great 20% of the time in his limited appearances this year. In the 10 games, 2 of them he won you the week, and that's what you remembered about Chris Thompson. He was electric.
Yeah, but he has a massive, massive laundry list history of injuries. Unfortunately, this is why we've really never seen Chris Thompson break out for fantasy. He always was on the cusp. You could see it there, but he broke out and unfortunately got injured again. But his team, who's his quarterback? If it's not Kirk Cousins playing quarterback for Washington, then you have no clue what the value of Chris Thompson will actually be, because let's say a new quarterback comes in, a rookie or just a lower-tier quarterback, certainly he will still have that pass-catching role, but what will the offense look like? Will it take a huge step down? Chris Thompson will be a pretty big wild card that you can swing for later in draft.
All right, I want your take real quick on 2 more running backs, Ajayi and Ty Montgomery. Ajayi 32nd, Montgomery 52. Consistency ranks back-to-back at 33 and 34, and tons of question marks over both those guys' heads. I obviously still believe that Ajayi is the best running back on a great team.
Completely agree.
But a team that's been willing to use 4 running backs if they needed to.
That's the problem. It's not even a 2-person timeshare.
It's like the Patriots
It's 4
in the NFC.
I mean, you're like, okay, well, maybe Corey Clement, he's showing some juice, and as the pass catching, they're like, we're going to put in Barner. So you just cannot, you could not confidently go with one of these players.
And the worst part is it works.
Right. Yeah, for their team.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're not going to go away from it. I would imagine, I'm going to project that LeGarrette Blount will not be on that team next year, so Ajayi likely will be a more consistent, more usable running back for fantasy. And if he can get those carries, which we've seen his role increase kind of every single week since moving to Philadelphia, Ajayi will be great for fantasy.
And Ty Montgomery, I would be shocked if he comes back in 2018 and is the lead back, given what they saw from the 2 native running backs that they drafted in the in the 2017 draft. Jamal Williams, Aaron Jones,
both were great.
They're both great. So I can't imagine. Ty Montgomery opened this season on fire. You thought you had a locked in top 5 running back at the very beginning of the season because he was, he was 90+% of snaps. I mean, a good workhorse is like 60% for running backs,
right.
and that's just not going to happen with those other 2 running backs. So you'll have to see camp reports next year to see if he's established the passing game.
That's going to be a hot topic.
Well, if you cut Randall Cobb, maybe he takes over in the slot.
Yeah,
maybe.
Back to his native wide receiver position.
Maybe.
All right, that is it for the Truth episode, part 2. We've still got tight ends and quarterbacks ahead. All your latest news, information. We're right there, guys. We got the Super Bowl, then the draft, free agency. Can't wait.
Goodbye.
Draft.com/ballers. Bye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.